Namaste, everybody. Welcome to the fifth session of Sri Krishna Ayurveda Chikitsa Kendram, explaining the basic principles of Ayurveda in a most understandable and scientific way to the common man, addressing the global community, and also trying out some practical information and tips which might help you to improve your life based on this wisdom. Namaste, Dr. Michela.
Namaste, Dr. Richard.
Yeah, so today we are also privileged to have Dr. Michela from Stuttgart, Germany. She is a practicing gynecologist in Stuttgart, and she's practicing in the Frauen's Arts practice of Renningen, where she's doing gynecology consultations. And she have been an enthusiast in studying various holistic medical systems in the world, including various natural medical systems. And almost since 6 years, she is officially learning Ayurveda as a postgraduate course. And she was also interning in India in Sri Krishna Ayurveda Chikitsa Kendram as well for few years back, and we always keep in touch. She asked me Ayurvedic questions, and also whenever I have doubts about modern obstetrics or gynecology, I contact Dr. Michela. So she's also a close colleague and friend. And welcome, Dr. Michela, to this platform, and thanks for finding a time for this small session.
Yeah, namaste. Thank you, Dr. Richard, for the nice introduction of myself, and thank you for inviting me for this discussion of this interesting topic of Kapha and Ojas in fertility.
Yes, that's right. So that's our topic today. So today we are going to discuss about Kapha and Ojas, and try to see how does that help. Specifically, as we have a fertility expert with us, how does that contribute in the fertility of human beings is what our focus is. We have seen doshas as the functioning units of human body, whereas dhadus are our structural components of human body. So we have seen Vata and Pitta, how they functionally support human body and how they produce various pathologies. And today we are getting into Kapha, which is a very important dosha, especially as it is consisting of earth and water, which is, I always compare the 5-element principle with 5 states of matter. So what is called as water is state of liquid, and what is called as earth is state of solidarity, solid. So solid state and liquid state is what is represented by water and earth. And we will see how water and earth elements is helping life to function and manifest. And we know without solidity and without liquidity, life really cannot. That is what the most appreciable expression of life. So probably Kapha is definitely a dosha which is most tangible among the other doshas compared to Vata and Pitta. And this becomes the substratum for life. How in the world or in the physical world around us, earth and water becomes the foundation for building up something, because without that we cannot build. Without earth we cannot stand. Without earth we cannot construct something. We cannot grow up something. So this is the basic foundation of life and expressions. In the same way, when we mix earth and water, or when we mix a solid and water together, uh, that gives to a semi-solid state of matter, almost muddy or a gel-like, a glue-like state is produced when water and earth is mixed together. And we know that it can be used as a gluing substance. Even in ancient world, we used to use this mixture of water and earth, like the mud or clay, to make pots, or even to build homes. Even because it is still used as a plastering material. Even we have mud houses even to build. So naturally, this really comes very close to the structural compound, even though it is functional as a dosha, but it naturally tend to take some structural roles also.
Mhm.
So this is how the earth and water comes together and becomes the ground for nourishment, structure building up or growth, fertility, etc. In your body. And this is a small introduction into how the elemental composition of Kapha is looked at. And probably Dr. Michela can ask me if you want to have some clarifications about Kapha before I start asking you questions.
Yes, yes. One of my questions is that Kapha also is called a Sleshma. So, sorry, what does that mean? Could you please explain it?
Yeah, yes, that's a good question. So, Sleshma is the word is derived from a Sanskrit word called slish, and slish means alingana. Alingana literally means to hug, or that stands for binding. So kapha is the dosha in you which hugs and everything else and keeps everything together. So this is defined as, so this is the literal meaning of sleshma, something which binds. And there's a nirukti, there's a definition which says slishyate dhatava avayavascha anena iti sleshma. So that means something that binds two things. One is the dhatus, which is the tissues, or which makes the cells to come together and makes the tissues, various tissues in the body, is kapha. And avayavascha, also something which binds and keeps the organs in its place, is also kapha. So these are two levels at which kapha works. So kapha works at almost at the cellular level to form dhatus and tissues to stay in its place and give stability. And at a grosser level, microscopic level, we can see that kapha also functions to keep avayavas. Avayavas means organs also, those organs in its place as well. So we have to look at these two levels differently. And we will see, even there are in your science or in Western science also, there are similar concepts in Western medicine. So there is something called as cell adhesion, or which keeps the cells in its place, is what is known as cell adhesion. That is the process by which the cells interact and attach to neighboring cells through specialized molecules of the cell surface. And this process can occur either through direct contact between two cell surfaces or more cell surfaces, which is called as cell junctions, or it can happen through indirect interactions where the cell attached to the surrounding extracellular matrix. So these two ways there can be adhesions. So as we know, one of the main property of kapha is sthiratva. Sthira means to stabilize, to stable, to be stable, not to move. So it is this cell adhesion which keeps the cells sthira property, the stable property. And the cell adhesion occurs from the interaction between cell adhesion molecules. That's a big terminology now. Cell adhesion molecules,
Yes.
otherwise known as CAM, with transmembrane proteins located on the cell surfaces. So these cell adhesions links cells in different ways and can be involved in signal transduction for cells to detect and respond to the changes in their surroundings. Other cellular processes regulated by adhesion includes cell migration, tissue development in multicellular organisms like human beings. So we know that cell tissue development or growth, etc., is are functions of kapha. So, and also we see another parallel that alterations in this cell adhesion or in these molecules can disrupt important cellular processes and lead to diseases like cancers, especially solid cancers like tumors. And we know tumors are called as arbuda in Sanskrit, and which is basically a kapha pathology. When kapha increases and imbalances mamsa, muscle tissues, and fat tissue, that's how Ayurveda explains tumors. And that's where we can see these adhesion molecules are basically disrupted. And also in various forms of arthritis, it is being seen. And even another thing is the cell adhesion molecules are also important for various microorganisms like viruses, bacteria, etc., also to attach to your body, enter into your body. For example, now we have been developing a nasal drop for preventing COVID-19, and it's almost in the market. So, so COVID has this spike protein around it, and this spike protein is the cell adhesion molecule in the virus, which is secreted outside as a spike, and it is with this that it binds to the ACE2 receptors in human body, especially in the nose. So now, when we developed a nasal drop for destroying spike protein, it has ingredients like ginger, which are kapha subsiding, kapha destroying. We know it's because it's sharp, it's hot, it's pungent. Because of these reasons, ginger is a very good kapha destroying molecule, substance, and this destroys a CAM, a cell adhesion molecule. So most of the times, this cell adhesion imbalances and diseases can be addressed by kapha subsiding herbs as well. And another is where this cell adhesion molecule, a cellular level, tissue level of kapha is appreciated. Whereas the second level in this kapha is sleshma, or binding property is happening is at the level of organs. And we know that it is the connective tissues in the human body which is responsible for basically holding our organs and various gross structures in its place. And our connective tissues are comprised of extracellular fibers, amorphous matrix called ground substance, and stationary and migrating cells. So when you look into the second component, the amorphous matrix, which is known as ground substance, that is also very close. Like it's almost like a gel-like substance produced in the extracellular space that contains components of extracellular matrix, except the fibrous materials. And this ground substance is active in the development, movement, proliferation of tissues, as well as their metabolism. So you can see it's also like development, proliferation, etc. is again a kapha function, which is the function of this amorphous substance called ground substance. Yeah. Additionally, cells use it for support and water storage, binding, and a medium for intercellular exchange. And ground substance provides lubrication for collagens. And we know this lubrication, which is the first quality of kapha, is snehana, is oilating. And lubrication for the collagens, especially the fibrous substances forming tendons or various ligaments, etc. There, as a lubricating substance, this ground substance act. So the components of the ground substance vary depending upon the tissue, and there it is made up of various large organic compounds and water. So the water is, again, we know water is what is the basic component of Kapha, and then it has earth, and in the place of earth we have macro organic molecules such as glycose, aminoglycans, proteoglycans, glycoproteins, etc. So we can see fibrous, like these substances would almost, we can compare it to the earth aspect, whereas the water component is like we can compare it to water itself. So we can see even how ground substance is also formed by both earth and watery substances. So this is basically the explanation about how this sleshma, which is the binding substance, which is oily substance, and which is also fixing cells and tissues and organs at its place, is being explained in the light of modern physiology and modern biomedicine. And I would take this opportunity to also, I will just also project a slide showing how the cell adhesions look like. You can see the tight junction where, which is impermeable, which is the cell-to-cell adhesions. You can see also towards the low bottom, that's how cell also binds to the extracellular matrix below. So you can also see in between the gap junction, which is through which even cells communicate to each other. It's permeable. Few substances can move from one cell to the other through this gap junction. So this is how the cell binding and adhesions, etc., is being explained in biomedicine, which easily can compare to the functions of Kapha and the Kapha in Ayurveda. And at this context, I would like to ask Dr. Michela, how do you understand or this concept of sleshma in the context of fertilization? Can you throw some light on how fertility happens and how sleshma contributes to that function?
Yes. So that is very deep entering into microbiology, what you have done with cell adhesion. And cell adhesion is a really important process with cell interacting, like you show on this wonderful picture there. So the communication with neighbor cells and the directly communication or indirectly directly communication by the extracellular matrix, like you explained. So the cell-cell adherence also have an important role in early events of reproduction, including gamete transport. Yeah. So the interaction between the sperm and the oocyte and the embryotic development and implantation also is it's caused also by cell adherence molecules.
Yeah.
So
sperm and ovum both have its own
yes.
Molecules, right?
Yes. Sperm have specialized metalloprotease domained proteins called ADAM. Yes, and oocyte have integrins, and they both communicate or bind together during the fertilization process. So, and that they get together and build the gamete. And for the transport also, it's important the cell-cell adherence molecules for the transportation of the gamete into the uterus. And then for implantation also, and for the development of the embryos, for the inner cell mass of the embryo and the trophoblastic structures, which build the placenta and the interacting with the mother body.
Mhm. So yeah, it's also very interesting what you're saying. So when the ovum is released from the ovary, uh, yeah, it is how does it what happens? Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yes, during the ovulation, so the ovum is catched by the fallopian tube, no? And the fallopian tube not is always on the ovary touched. So it's during ovulation, there are the hormones in the body which opening the surrounding of the fallopian tube, the fimbria, which then helps the collection of the oocyte. So, and this hormones gives a signal to the fimbria to causing to swell with blood and hit the ovary in a gentle sweeping motion. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the ovum be picked up by the fallopian tube, and there inside of then in the microscopic picture we can see some cilia. Yes, and they will. Yes, you see there some the small one are the cilia, and the green one are the PEC cells in between, and you see a sperm there. And when the ovum and is picking up by the cilia and fertilization has happened, so the PEC cells, the green one in between, are for nutrition of the gamete and also of the transport. But the interesting is that the cilia have a movement. So in the first state, they make like a mother who's with a child, yes, like doing like that. And when the fertilization is happened and the gamete is developing, then the cilia get the direction moving the oocyte the gamete into the uterus, direction to the uterus. That is very interesting. And the PEC cells also have a really important role for nutrition of them. No?
Yeah. So that's again a topic what we came to. So probably kapha, something which is also important for nourishment. So you said until the fertilization happens, the cilia cells would almost keep it in the fallopian tube, right? With the
Yes.
oscillating movement.
Yes.
And then only when the fertilized ovulation happened, or at least after only 28, 24 hours, then only it will
Yes.
allow it to move further to the body of the uterus.
Yes.
So during this time, how does the ovum survive? What nourishes the ovum?
What nourishes? That are some, I think, some from the PEC cells, like I told, they give some nourishing factors what are needed for, I think, some glucose and nutrition factors which are needed, yes, for the maturing of the gamete, no, and energy that needed, no.
Yeah. So that's probably also that part also. Yeah, especially it has glucose. You said, if I heard it right.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So that's sweets. We know that sweet is also a property of kapha. So there is sweet is a property of kapha. So when glucose is present, that's also kind of a presence of kapha there, and it's a properly a big fluid medium there, right? There's a lot of secretions that as the fimbria swells up and grows wider, and so these all big growing, swelling up. It's all a kapha thing, right? So we can see all those watery things happening during the fertilization and also implantation. It's a slish part. That's very interesting. Yes. Then we will also look into the word kapha and see what does the word kapha mean. and how that contributes to various functions in human body. The word
Yes.
kapha literally means originated from the word ka, or ka stands for the word udaka, and udaka means nothing but water or jala. So Nirukti says that kena jalena bhalati iti kapha. That's a Sanskrit derivation of the word kapha. So something which is being fruited and nourished by water is what is kapha. So kapha is that, or those substances which keep fertilizing and nourishing human body with the help of water. And the word bhala, do you know what bhala means in Sanskrit?
So now maybe I mistake bala. You mean bala, but means drained, or
Yeah,
pala?
yeah,
Pala
bhala.
means fruit. Pala means fruit.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yes.
right. So bhala means fruits, and
Mm.
bala means strength,
Yes.
because it's
Okay.
probably confusing for
Yes.
many. Yeah, yeah. But
Yes.
it means fruit. Yes. So
Fruit.
it's a very interesting concept
Mm.
that fruit tends with water.
Mhm.
There are many discussions happening whether Ayurveda did understood ovulation or not, or whether
Mm.
Ayurveda has confused that it is the menstrual blood or the menstrual fluid
Mhm.
is the reproductive tissue of females. This is a big
Mhm.
discussion when you study
Mhm.
Ayurvedic literature, because in some
Yes.
contexts we can see literature saying that it is the Artava and Shukra. So Shukra stands for semen,
Yes.
and Artava most of the time is translated as menstrual fluid. So many people kind of try to criticize Ayurveda. One of the criticisms, there are many criticisms. We can be critical because it's a very ancient science, where whether they thought that it is the menstrual fluid which is responsible for fertilization. Whereas we can see ancient classics has used a word anta pushpa. Anta means inside, and
Mhm.
pushpa. You know what is pushpa?
Is flower?
Flower.
No.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Flower, it's flower, that's right. So
Mm.
Anta Pushpa means an internal flower. You know,
Okay.
so that means a
Mhm.
female is having flowers like compared to plants.
Yes.
It's a beautiful
Yes.
concept. So,
Yes.
and an internal flowering is happening. This is compared to ovulation.
Okay.
So, this word fruit and fruitening is
Mhm.
converting the internal flower into a fruit.
Mhm.
Understand? So that means
Okay.
fertilization.
Yes.
We can really interpret that as fertilization. That this flowering as the rupture and of the follicles and ovulation, and fruitening as fertilization. When I say this, it's not just my speculation, because in the context of explaining the whole fertilization in the Sharira section, in the
Mhm.
physiology and anatomy section of Ayurveda, there is a formulation called as Bhala Sarpis. Bhala means again fruit, and Sarpi means ghee. So it's a formulation of ghee processed with various herbs, and there it says that if you take this at the starting from the date of ovulation,
Mhm.
the pushpa will produce bhala. It will,
Mm.
that means it will help fertilization. It is,
Mm.
and that is why it is known as bhala sabbi. It is something which helps. This formulation helps to convert the flower into fruit. So that's very clear. So they knew that
Mhm.
it is the flower that converts it into fruit. Not, but at the same time, the menstrual fluid, artava, uh,
Mhm.
probably you will explain that to me. What is this menstrual fluid, and how ovulation is important, etc. Uh, this is considered as a upadhadu, a sub tissue of rasa, the plasma of the body fluid. intracellular fluid or plasma. And this, the menstrual fluid has many proteins, around 162 proteins, which is not present in either regular blood nor in the vaginal discharge. There are studies like that, right? So which shows that the proteomes specifically present in the endometrium, when the endometrium thickens. Probably you're going to, this is my question to you, the whole ovulation and the preparation for ovulation, etc. So when the endometrium develops within the endometrium and the endometrial fluid, there are 162 specific proteomes which is neither found in the blood nor in the vaginal fluid. And there are a lot of studies now happens regarding the role of those proteins in implantation, nourishing the embryo, and the whole fertilization, especially when frequent miscarriages and when the female factors other than ovulation is found to be a cause of infertility. There are a lot of studies happening how and which among these proteomes are playing a major role in the fertility in females. So this is probably why they also wanted to call Artava playing a major role in fertilization. Instead of saying only it is the Anda Pushpa, it is and semen which is combining, they also gave a lot of influence to the Artava, the menstrual fluid. Probably because of this contribution of these proteomes to the whole fertilization. Just if you look at the functions of water, because it's compared to the water and what water does in human physiology. And if you compare that to functions of Kapha, right from lowering body temperature, regulating body temperature, moistening organs or snehana of mouth, eyes, nose. And we know that in the head there is Tarpaka Kapha, which is specifically doing these functions. And then coming to the joints, you see it lubricates joints and the synovial fluid, and it's compared to the Slayashmaka Kapha. In the chest, again, protecting the organs and tissues. We know that there is something called Avalambaka Kapha in the chest. And in the stomach and intestines, a lot of water secretions, mucus secretions, preventing, helping the digestion, preventing constipation, and in the kidneys, lessen the burden of kidneys and liver by flushing out waste products. So you can see there the Klayadaga Kapha, the explanation of Klayadaga Kapha, which is basically secreted from the stomach and intestines. And then the functions of metabolic functions, dissolving minerals and other nutrients to make it available to the cells and carrying nutrients and oxygens, etc. So you can see how this I have just downloaded this from the Mayo Clinic website. These are the functions of water, just water in the human body. And this is how water is helping human body. And this is the same way it correlates with the functions of Kapha explained in Ayurveda, right? Sthiratva with stabilizing, Snigdhatva, ovulating, Sandhi Bandha, binding of the joint, and Kshama, patience and mental stability. This is how Ayurveda also explains the functions of Kapha. And now, this is how Ayurveda sees Kapha as the word and its physiology and various types of Kapha. Even though Kapha is not directly mentioned, there's a separate Kapha is not mentioned for fertility. I'm very curious to listen to you, especially after listening to the explanation of the word Kapha. Can you explain the whole menstrual cycle and ovulation and hormonal roles of male hormones, etc. in
Yes.
fertilization.
Okay. So I don't understood all right because poor
The
Wi-Fi,
network is
but so if I understood right, you asked me to explain menstrual cycle and ovulation, yes? Okay.
yes.
So the menstrual cycle is a series of natural changes in hormone production and structures of the uterus and ovaries of the female reproductive system that makes pregnancy possible. Yeah. So, and we can see once to the ovaries and other to the endometrium. Yes, the lining of the uterus. So the ovaries control the mature of the follicle by releasing estrogen and progesterone until the ovum or egg is mature to be ready to release. Yes, and the ovary is controlled by the pituitary gland, by the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Yes, and we have two phases in the menstrual cycles: the maturing of the follicle and after the lutein phase. And in the middle of the cycle, during the follicle is maturing, we get a peak of luteinizing hormone, and that releases ovulation. Yes, and then the ovum can survive until 24 hours. If not be fertilized, then it goes down and menstruation can start. Yes. So women can observe the time during ovulation in body signs sometimes. So you can see the more vaginal discharge, so the cervical mucus is more and clearer. It's slippery and very stretchy, that you can always, as you can sometimes really observe really good by the woman itself, or when I, as a gynecologist, make examination during this time, I can see it.
Yeah, so that's coming very close to the concept of mucus, like in a
Yes.
secrete, the kapha.
Yes,
right?
yes, it's really clear. So you can maybe compare it with raw egg white. So it's very direction. So like very stretchy. Yeah.
Stretching,
So
make
the mucus is very stretchy. Yeah. So that was the ovary part, but in the same part, in the influence of the hormones, the endometrium also prepares for an fertilized ovum. Yes, the endometrium have two linings, or yes, the basalis and the functionalis. The basalis is attached. Yes, two lines. The basalis is close to the myometrium of the uterus. Yes, there you see a uterus in the center of the picture. And in the middle, you see the endometrium, and it's a classical sign during the ovulation time. So you see three laminar endometrium, yes, and in between the three laminar, the functionalis is growing up, and that makes a sign. So it becomes oedematous, and it's also, for me, a correlation to kapha, to watery, yes. And after the ovulation, then when progesterone is dominant in the cycle, the endometrium get transformed. So to be ready to get an fertilized ovum, yeah. And if not, then the corpus, also after ovulation, I forget that after ovulation, the ovary changed to corpus luteum to produce progesterone, which is important for maintain pregnancy. Yes, but if no fertilization is happen, then the corpus luteum change to corpus albicans, and then it goes into the then it goes, and then we have a lack of progesterone, and this starts a process that the cells become ischemic and die, and then menstruation starts. That is a monthly sheathing of the lining of the uterus, of the endometrium.
Yeah. So in this, especially the part which is making the endometrium to swell up, right?
Yes.
So that is very important to have. So we know in few women, when the thinning of endometrium, or when the endometrium is thin, that doesn't allow or that is usually observed. Can you just explain that part? Because in ultrasound, in female infertility, they also look into the thickness of endometrium. Can you just elaborate that part a little bit?
Yes. So when you have menstruation or a period disorders, yes, and a woman try to get pregnant, you can invite her to an observing by the ultrasound the menstrual cycle. So you invite her in the middle of the cycle when ovulation may has happened. Yeah, depends on the days of menstruation cycle from the woman. It's very individual. And when you can observe the ovary and the endometrium. Yeah, and in the middle of cycle, I expect that the endometrium looks like that when it's too thin. So maybe the woman don't get ready for ovulation. We have to wait a few days, or it's a lack of ovulation in this cycle. Yeah. So the endometrium can give me signs what has happened in the body. Yeah. So and it's too thin. Yeah.
It's too thin. Have you ever observed that the ovulation is happening and follicle has ruptured and ovulation has happened, but the endometrium thickness is not growing? Does that happen?
Yes, I don't remember it very clear, but I think it could be. So the both processes have worked together. So
yeah. So when you were explaining about this whole function being controlled by the ovaries and how the endometrium prepares for this process, it was just reminding me of the simile of Kapha, because Kapha is compared to moon. That's our name of this topic. Find the moon in you, right?
Yes.
So and it's looked like the image what we have projected for this session was a moon in the sky and a lake or an ocean below. How when the moon comes closer, how the tide happens, how the water rises. In the same way, when the rupture of ovum is happening, or follicle is happening, and ovulation is happening, that can be compared to the moon, full moon stage, and the preparation as the preparation of earth and water, like how a lake opens its womb. And we know that many geological and biological activities, including tides, high tides in the ocean, and flowering seasons, mating seasons in many animals and plants, etc., is set in alignment with this moon. And I would like also to take this opportunity to invite my brother, who is now also a medical nurse, who is trained as a psychiatric nurse, to join us, because I remember him. First of all, let me welcome him into the whole discussion. Namaste, Anna. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste, Dr. Michela. Namaste to everyone listening.
Yeah. So he's Sajid. He's basically he was into management, and now he's trained as a medical nurse, maybe influenced by his wife, my sister-in-law, Sajid, and also by my mother. So I remember our mother in this occasion, because probably she has inspired all of us to become medical professionals. So he's now working in Texas, to be precise, in Dallas. And probably he will also tell where. I forgot the hospital where he's working with. Maybe he will introduce.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a very nice discussion. I was listening from the backstage how this discussion is coming along. It's always a pleasure to be part of any medical discussions. And of course, I would like to remember my mom, who inspired us with her dedication and how she was nurse not just for the hospital but for the entire community. I'm sure that's where my brother got the inspiration, and now we can see him as a very successful physician. It's happy to see that. Definitely, my wife also influenced my decision to be a nurse, and I've been in mental health for 13 years now. And especially when we are doing night shift and we are driving into our shift, we look at the moon and it's a full moon, and we see, oh my God, get ready for this. So it was pretty interesting to find any studies or any correlation between science and the reality of psychiatric illnesses getting worse when there is full moon. I would just opine that this is still not conclusively saying that yes, when there's full moon, all the psychiatric illnesses are going to be at a high or elevated stage. If I make a statement like that, I don't think we'll have conclusive evidence. But we were looking into some research studies and found a couple of studies that conclusively looked at schizophrenia. Something I would like to bring up as far as what I found from that study is that especially paranoid form of schizophrenia had results when the patients acted out in terms of being more psychiatrically unstable during a full moon stage when they looked at all four stages of the lunatic cycle. Another thing, back in the old days, the term lunatic asylum came from, and if you think about the word lunatic, that is definitely related to the moon. Um, so there has been studies that looked also into emergency room admissions and accidents, and there is some correlation between the lunatic cycle and more accidents, more admissions into emergency room as well. Having said that, I have to also give credit to some of the other studies who say that they looked at psychiatric admissions and they couldn't find any exact correlation. And this is a topic that would need to be studied a little bit more for somebody to conclusively say, yes, there is a correlation. When we are looking at it, anything scientifically, we have to acknowledge both sides of the equation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this is when I was reading about the moon, because even in Indian Vedic astrology, moon stands for the mind, and they say sun stands for the soul, and moon stands for mother, sun stands for the father. So it's very interesting that the moon, even in various planetary positions, where geologically where it stands around the Earth, definitely has influence on even sleep patterns. Even there are many studies which explains how it disturbs sleep. Even there are studies on neonatals, even college students, even urban population, etc. So this even how full moon day is even today considered as a, a day to plant many seedlings, because there are studies which says that this helps to develop roots and shoots and leaves. So there are not only in medicine but also in agriculture and plant science, etc. We can see how the full moon is really considered even as a seedling day. Even traditionally here, the white phase or the bright phase of the lunar cycle is considered as a time where you are not supposed to cut timber or wood to make furnitures or to build something, because it has a, like how high tide happens, it takes more water content into the wood, and that wood would get easily destroyed, and it pests or other organisms can easily attack that wood. So traditionally, even people who cut wood would look into the dark cycle of the lunar cycle, and they will opt specific days to cut wood. Even that's practiced even today. Even the collection of various herbs for various medicinal purposes is also there. They specifically look for either there are herbs where it's only collected in the new moon day or full moon day. So definitely there are many things, and to put it into science and publication is another thing. As my brother, when I called him today morning on his night time yesterday, he was not sure whether he wanted to state this. He wanted to look up and look up into the publications and to be very precise and scientific. When the things are not very conclusive, it's interesting that it stirs up the mind, and it also brings a lot of energy. And they say you're not supposed to start anything on full moon day because your mind won't be settled to make decisions. Even because there's a lot of mental energy, and many people cannot sleep. I have even seen, especially when in Westerners, because when it's Westerners, it seems like they're more sensitive, especially people who are living in by nature. That's the biggest polarity we see in the West. If somebody is living in a rural area, that means you cannot see villages like that even in India. There's no disturbances, such a silence, such a nature. And of course, when it is a city, then it's such a contrast of even nights never happen because of this extra lights, and how that disturbs the whole world, and it's even many floras and faunas is being debated. It seems like my brother also wanted to contribute or conflict to this discussion, something. I invite again him.
No, this is very interesting because we all hear about seasonal affective disorder. When the days are shorter, or it's a very cloudy day, and especially during the months of winter, I'm sure it is very similar in Europe, Dr. Michela, how during the summer the days are longer and brighter, and when it is winter, the days are not as bright. Let's say, people, it affects people's mood, how you're going to be generally, seasonal affective disorder is something that is, scientifically studied, and we can easily see that. Also, I just want to add that, the scientific evidence in the study that they mentioned about the lunar cycle is affecting people's mental health. The scientific aspect of it is how they affect the neurohormones and the release of neurohormones and the lunar cycle. So during full moon, the neurohormones were released at a higher level to cause the emotions to fly high. So I was reading, how's the scientific evidence, Yeah, so I just want to share that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, the release of melatonins. What was specifically studied?
I saw the one about melatonin specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So I would also, before my brother leave, also Dr. Michela to discuss about what she thinks about this ovulation and full moon day, because that's also compared. We know this terminology honeymoon, in the whole culture, and how they have related that fertilization, romance, etc., to the moon and lunar. So, being a gynecologist, you want to and to take away this terminology, but
Do
how do
have
you mood influences
do
ovulation?
ha- to honeymoon to during ovulation. So yes, so in natural medicine there's a connection between moon cycle and full moon and ovulation. Yes, that women ovulate during full moon. So but I think maybe when women live in the big cities with light pollution and yeah, so maybe the dawn will be happen like this, but maybe when people live more by nature, more rural, so maybe they can observe it. I think it's close to that. Yeah.
And have you clinically observed? Because I'm sure that you are doing hundreds of ovulation studies, and you're also assisting so many births every year. So,
Yes.
what is your observation, practically, clinically, and not scientific evidences, but your clinical experience? Does ovulation, or have you probably you might have never looked at when it's full moon when you are doing an ovulation study? I'm sure.
So when I do when I do ovulation study, I never looked at the moon. That I will do until
Now,
today. Now I started. So, but during birth, so it changed in the delivery room. So we have time where in the full moon time a lot of births, but sometimes we have no births. So, but what I can see, it's women, the pregnant woman, when they be guarded by in the gynecological ward with some premature births to guard them. We can see, or I observed that the babies often, the fetus often is more inquiet during the full moon time. So the women often call during full moon time for, I have cramps, I have contractions or something like that. The child or the babies are moving. So that was, sometimes we can observe it. It was really interesting.
yeah, that's a very interesting part. So that even full moon not only affects the mother but also the children. So they also
I
get
think
a little bit
maybe.
crazy. So they start
Maybe.
yeah. So that's how you have observed. So it's you probably get more calls when there is a guarded pregnancies are there. They're a bit more concerned usually during these days because they have symptoms and cramps or movement,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So please observe further and see if ovulation studies and
Yes, I will.
yeah, probably this also you can also ask you must explain the science of ovulation, like more discharge, more endometrial fluid and edema and elevated temperature, and maybe you can add now full moon days closer to full moon bright
Yes, yes, yes. And then I will share it with you, and
yes.
you can share it with your students.
Or if you find things contrary, new moon days, more ovulations happening, please let us know. That's a serious imbalance happening. Okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, my
Thank you.
brother, for joining us. Hope you'll keep listening to us if you're not bored. What is the
Yeah,
time in
we'll
US
come.
now?
Oh, now I am more awake. It's almost 7:30 a.m.
Okay,
So
hope
I'm
this is not a full
yeah.
moon day that we are doing this discussion.
I would act differently if that was the case.
Okay. Talk to you later. Yeah, that was nice to have him. And now, Doctor, we also see pathologies of or imbalances of kapha. Is the last topic that uh,
Yes.
remains for us to discuss. So, according to Ayurveda, when kapha increases, again kapha increase can have like any other dosha, two forms of kapha imbalance. One is when the water aspect of kapha increases, you know, That is one way of imbalance. And it's very interesting in our mother tongue, cold, the cold and running nose, etc., is known as Jaladosha. This is the Malayalam word, what we call for cold, Jaladosha.
Mm-hmm.
Jaladosha means a Kapha dosham, the Kapha dosha, the water, Jala means water. The water aspect of Kapha has undergone dushti. That's what is Jaladosha means. That means running nose, when water and earth aspect of Kapha is in a balance within, there's sufficient earth to hold the water. So it's again a beautiful, what you call balance. If there is too much of water, then it will run like running nose. You have edema, swellings, etc. So that's one kind of kapha imbalances. There is excessive liquidity in the body. Whereas the other way of kapha imbalance is where there is prithvi dosha, there is more solids. The earth aspect of kapha increases. That is where your tumors, growths, hardening, fibrosis, those kinds of reactions happens, growths, etc. happens. So you can see kapha leading to two kinds of excessive ovulation, sneha, excessive ovulation, excessive secretions, excessive runningness, excessive accumulation of fluid, etc. Is going in terms of imbalance of water element, whereas excessive hardening, fibrosis, growths, etc. goes in favor of the earth elements. And we have specific remedies for these different types of imbalances. For example, Punarnava is a herb we use a lot for this water kind of things. And interestingly, Dashamula is a very well-known 10 roots, and they all have this roots to suck water. They are very good water pullers, and that's why it is also used in human body to reduce shobha, or this excessive water connection in the body. And we have again, even lithiasis, or what is known as stone formations. Let it be kidney stones or renal stones or hepatic stones, are extreme kapha imbalances. So this fluids sediments settles down and almost transforms into a rock stage. That's the most earthiest imbalances. So there are specific herbs which can break these stones or tumors or solid imbalances happening. So this is how we will look into the kapha imbalances in human body. So I was wondering, because we have Michela with us today, in our practice, we see PCOS, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, is growing like anything, at least in Indian population that we are. My wife, Dr. Vidya, who treats a lot of female patients, always keep asking, and many people again keep coming to her with the same problem. So my question is, do you also observe this trend in Europe? If yes, do you think kapha has a role in it? And what are the specific causes that you observe? And something around it. We can wind up this whole session with this.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I can see increasing PCOS now, and there are two types of women who can develop PCOS. Classical, you see it in obese women. Yeah, but you can also see it in lean women. Yeah. So PCOS is an endocrine imbalance in the woman's body, in the reproductive system. So normally the ovary produce estrogen and progesterone, and before I explained it, but a small amount also male hormones called androgens. Yeah. Yes. And this endocrinological imbalance of hormones causes a skip of menstrual period. So you see menstrual disorders like amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea. And the lack is of, for example, the progesterone is lower as usual, but the androgens are in a higher level as usual. And there's block the ovary to produce a moderate ovum to ovulate. So then you can see, for example, in the ultrasound in PCOS, you can see many small fluid-filled follicles or sacs, yes, and like a chain, like a pearl chain. You can compare it, and they grow. Then this small follicle grow inside the ovaries, but never reach the maturation to ovulate. Yes, and the result is that ovulation not happens and menstruation not happens. So what are the symptoms in this woman? Menstrual disorders, yeah, like oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea. And you have the progesterone imbalance is too low, so the endometrium don't can be transformed. You have a high influence of estrogen. And when the woman starts to bleed, they often observe heavy bleeding because the endometrium was so thickened. Yeah, that is one. One of the symptoms are the menstrual disorders. The other symptoms are caused by the high level of androgen, like acne, like hair growing, like male hair growing, like in the face, or yes, other parts of my private parts. So, or loss of hair, fatty skin. So, and another is in the metabolic system. It's multifactorial. The PCOS. Yeah, you see also metabolic disorders. Yeah, they have a high risk for diabetes or hypertension. The obesity causes that. Also in insulin resistance of the body cells. Yes, and this then insulin increases more, then the androgen increases more, and that causes a difficulty in ovulation. And then you have a vicious cycle. Yeah, it starts again. Then period, skipping of period, and death. And that I can observe also in my practice that it's increasing.
Yeah. So you have most of the things what you have been explaining with obesity, insulin resistance, etc., are more and more kapha kind of thing. But you also said that it can also happen in thin subjects. PCO can be also in thin subjects. And what is the cause there?
Yes, that is more the hormonal disbalance, more producing more androgens. It could be because of the in the kidney, in the, I don't know the English word, in the where adrenaline is produced also. The adrenal, yes, adrenal glands, or in the ovaries by itself. Yes, in the body it could be produced in the both organs, places. Yes, and that is observed and. Ovarial hyperandrogenetic cause in lean women. No?
Good. So, what are the common causes that you see is leading to PCOS, or why it is increasing? You think?
The reasons are not so clear. Why? Yes, but it is associated with some factors, maybe lifestyle, So obesity is lifestyle, yeah. So not the right food, not at the right time, not rightly digested, then less exercise, yeah. Sitting more in rooms, don't go out, yeah.
Yeah.
In nature, yes. It is, I think it's caused also by lifestyle.
And is it reversible?
Yes, in obese women, yes, when they lost weight, then you can observe that menstruation cycle starts again and be regularly. Yes, and then I can observe that the woman also conceive. Yeah. So.
And this is the cyst, the multiple cysts, which are in the pearl, like a garland. Does they dissolve?
Maybe not so clear, but what has happened that then the ovum is maturating until ovulation. And but when you have it in the PCOS, the ovum don't reach the maturation for ovulation. Yes, but when the body system lost weight and the hormone get balanced, so then you can see maturation. And maybe sometimes it is less in the ultrasound to see like the pearl chain. No? Yeah. Sometimes it rests like this, but you have regular ovulation. Yeah. So, and maturation.
Yeah. Good, thank you. So finally, we are almost finishing the session, and we just try to throw some light into what is Ojas. And Ojas, again, as many of these concepts of what is precisely Kapha, maybe we can compare Shleshmaga Kapha, which is the Kapha in the joints, to synovial fluid, Tarpa Kapha in the head to cerebrospinal fluid, etc. But they have explained a Kapha in the chest, which is the basic Kapha, which we cannot completely compare to the something which is really available in the biochemical, biomolecular, or molecular biology wisdom. I remember once Dr. Michela herself is suggesting me the concept of surface. What is that? Surfactants. Yeah, which is responsible for this giving the contour and not letting the alveoli to collapse and maintaining the surface tension for the oxygen absorption, etc. As a substance which is in the chest, which structurally is 90% it is lipid, it's cholesterol, and it also has 10% of some proteins in it, which is also a mucus-like substance, which probably can be compared, we don't know, to the Klayada Kapha. In the same way, the concept of Ojas is kind of a metaphysical to physical expression, where they say when the ovum and the sperm come together and form the zygote, and the zygote starts developing into the embryo, the very first substance which is formed in the first interaction between the trophoblast or various cells in the embryo gives rise to a basic substance known as Ojas, which is responsible for the further life processes and advancement of fetal development, which then settles in the heart when the heart is formed. And by settling there, it starts imparting life to all the tissues, especially to the rasa, which is the life fluid, the plasma, the cytoplasm. So, and later, when each tissues are formed, they interact with doshas and form organs and organogenesis, embryo development. And later, the dhatus or the tissues metabolizes and produce a tejas, like a glow or again an essence, which the essence of even the kapha. So somewhere Sushruta says that the most stable kapha itself is ojas. That is the ojas which is produced secondarily in the tissues. So there is a ojas which is situated in the heart. Even they have given that amount, it is only 8 drops. Even these are 8 drops of substances present in the heart. When it is destroyed, life is destroyed. And when it is present, life is present. So this is, we don't have a correlation or a comparison of a biomolecule which is present in heart yet, in my knowledge, to compare what is ojas. But the presence of life is equated to this. That means even whatever structure is damaged, you could even replace it and bring back life to normalcy if this 8 drops of molecules are preserved. And if whatever thing is replaced, now we have even mechanical heart instead of heart, kidneys, liver, everything is transplanted. I hope in few years we will also replace human brain with something else. So this is possible when ojas is intact. So which is present in human heart. And Ardhanjali, half this much is the amount of the apara ojas, which is present at the tissue level, which is circulating ojas, which is produced as a byproduct of the end of metabolism. So we can see life as a metabolism process. We take dead molecules of plants and animals. It can be leaves, roots, fruits, meat, milk, honey, whatever it is. We take organic molecules, except water. Everything is organic molecules from various life forms that we eat. And digestion is the magical process of breaking it down to its units like amino acids and lipids and carbohydrates and fructose, glucose, etc. And then it is absorbed, this anna rasa is absorbed into the circulation through both portal circulation and lymphatics, and being poured into the heart through subclavian vena or inferior vena cava. And it is when the absorbed substances reaches the heart, according to Ayurveda, it is then it regains life. So the magic of converting the dead molecules into living substance is happening in the heart. So this life giving is the function of ojas. So when you give a biomolecule, let it be something being infused through your intravenous infusion, through IV infusions, or let it be ingested through mouth. So whenever something, a molecule reaches, a bioorganic molecule reaches your heart, then heart has this magic of converting this into again a living molecule. And then it circulates throughout the body as life supporting living substance, which then again imparts life, what we call as the liquid, the plasma, the liquid part of the blood, which is called as rasa in Ayurveda. So this ojas, which when it remains in the heart, it converts the annarasa or the nutritious fluid into your life sap. And my guru was a toxicologist. I remember him every moment. Whatever we are able to do in Ayurveda is just because of Brahmashri Vallu Shankaran Nambudiri, my guru. And always a toxicologist. I was also trained in toxicology. Sees life, the duality of life is ojas and toxin, visha and ojas. They are having opposite qualities. So when a toxin enters your body, then it conquers your ojas and start destroying the ojas and start digesting your body. So a toxin is defined as something which your body cannot metabolize, but that will metabolize your body, that will digest your tissues, that will burn your tissues. This is possible only when your ojas is conquered by a substance. And yogis has proven that they can empower their ojas such that no toxin can destroy the tissues or their ojas. Even we know it's the concept of Shiva. Shiva is that consciousness who has expanded himself to a state of such a powerful ojas where the highest toxin called Kalagudha can also be prevented entering the system and digesting the ojas and destroying your tissues. So this concept of ojas is what we are putting in front of the all open-minded people. We need not accept things unknown, but we need not negate either. So I'm sure when I was studying, I was an Ayurveda student. I'm still an Ayurveda student, but when I was studying Ayurveda in universities, many things in Ayurveda was laughed at, including applying oil on your skin. Many Western doctors used to laugh and make joke around, why do you waste these oils on your skin? What happens if you apply oil on your skin? The dermal absorption in 1990s was not known. It's only in 2000 or 2001 when the modern science knew that fat-soluble substances can be absorbed percutaneously. This was just found out just 20 years ago. Until that, the science didn't know that through skin you can absorb something. And today, biomedicine have estrogen patches, and biomedicine has accepted and incorporated per dermal application of medicine, even painkillers, various medicines, and they have understood skin is the safest and slow releasing route of administration of many medicines. So those people who were laughing at applying oils, and you look at their wisdom, they used oils. They cooked herbs in oils to specifically take the fat-soluble substances, which are the active principles in the herb, into the oil, and then they applied that oil on our skin as a route of administration, because they knew that the fat-soluble substances can enter your system percutaneously. So many such things which were not known 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago. Even I look at recent publications, many concepts in Ayurveda are being invented in biomedicine in a biochemical way. So let us not deny the concept of even the Ojas. If we can find out what is this Ojas biochemically, at a molecular level, subatomic level, whatever level, definitely that will be a revolution in medicine, because if Ojas is there in human body or any body, any animal body, life will be there. That's a promise from the ancient scholars. And if we can, I dream of a day where we do intracardiac infusion of Ojas to preserve life as a life-saving drug in one day. I think that's how we have to use this ancient wisdom in this modern context. And I once again thank Dr. Michela for the presence. For many people, you are today participating in this discussion as a representation of many doctors outside, especially outside India, who are open to holistic medicine, who look beyond chemistry, and who believe that chemistry is definitely a science, but life also exists beyond chemistry. There's biophysics. Ayurveda is a science of biophysics. Ayurveda is explaining life in a physical way. And there are many other dimensions in which life can be understood. There are many other dimensions and paradigms where life manifests. When explored properly, that can add to the conventional systems of medicine. And today you participate in this discussion as a representation of such open-hearted people who think patient-centrically, who think that beyond system, patient and humans and life is valuable. Given any opportunity, any system should be used to serve and help people. And in the name of all Ayurvedic fraternities and people from India, I thank you wholeheartedly, Dr. Michela, for your presence and your efforts to learn, your efforts to help people through Ayurveda since 6 years in Europe. I understand that you also use Ayurvedic advices, nutritional advices, lifestyle recommendations, sometimes some herbs, etc., also to help people. And I wish you all the very best, and I hope that you will further your wisdom and contribute, especially in fertility and gynecology protocols. And I hope you will also contribute to some research projects in future, and really looking forward to working together with you. And I also sincerely thank everybody who is watching this live. I see a lot of people watching this live, and also who are going to watch this later. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.